Welcome to the Dugout Report, episode number 1. We are joined with Shotgun Spratling, and we are going to dive deeply into this upcoming Friday's baseball slate for college baseball, and I look at some games for Saturday. And welcome, and I'm really glad we got the time to talk baseball.
Yeah, definitely. Always a fun time talking baseball. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So let's start off with I think Richmond will be playing Sacred Heart on Friday. What do you think of that matchup?
Yeah, Richmond is playing a little mini tournament. They got St. Thomas and Sacred Heart coming in. I think they'll open with St. Thomas and then play Sacred Heart for a couple games. Actually, we're supposed to play today on Thursday, but the game got canceled. Richmond has Jeremy Nath moving to the front of the rotation. He lost their season opener to Army, but the team bounced back and they won 3 consecutive there. Dominic Tasso off to a great start for him, their fifth-year senior. He batted 500 the first weekend, a triple, 3 RBIs. So, they've got to get the offense going a little bit more and get some solid pitching there. I think St. Thomas is a team. They got swept in the opening weekend in a 4-game series with Florida International, but 3 close losses. So can they bounce back? They just didn't get any hits. So, a lot of times those northern teams just aren't getting an opportunity to play outdoors early in the season or in the preseason. So that first opening weekend sometimes is a little bit of a crash course just trying to get on the field. So I think similar with Sacred Heart too is, those guys are just looking forward to the opportunity to get some playing time and get outdoors and play be out in the sunshine a little bit as much as possible after, being kind of cooped up in the off season.
That sounds like an interesting game. I think that Richmond seems a pretty interesting team this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in that game. And next on my script, I have Coastal Carolina against Rutgers. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, again, another multi-team event. You're going to have Coastal for the second weekend in a row. They're hosting 3 or 4 teams there. So, it's an intriguing matchup. Steve Owens has turned Rutgers around. He built Bryant into just a powerhouse up in the NEC, and now he's taken over Rutgers and quickly turned them into a team to contend in the Big Ten. And I think they're ready to take another step forward, but they got to get some pitching. They're working to find out their pitching depth. They have a couple guys that pitched their opener on last weekend that were bullpen guys primarily last year, including 6'6" lefty Brian Fitzpatrick. He struck out 7 in 4 hitless innings, but obviously you got to work up that pitch count a little bit. I think he'll be the guy to go up against Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina had 7 guys with at least 4 hits the opening weekend, so he's got his work cut out for him. And they kind of tag team last week, Rutgers did, with Maryland transfer Sam Bello, pitching kind of handicapping that game where Fitzpatrick went the first 4 innings. He went the next 4 and 2/3 before they turned it over to a closer in a shutout that they had there. But Rutgers also hit really well the opening weekend. Granted, they were playing Houston Baptist, not that tough of competition. Coastal Carolina played a little bit tougher competition. But it'll come down to Rutgers. Can they get some hits in the middle of the lineup from Chris Brito and Ryan Lasco? They had a lot of guys that hit really well last week too. Brito had 5 hits, 2 doubles, 5 RBIs. Lasco didn't do too much, but if those guys get are run producers in the middle of the lineup, then I think they can take on Coastal Carolina in their home field.
What's the best hitter for Coastal Carolina to keep an eye on?
I mean, Dale Thomas had 5 doubles and 5 RBIs the opening weekend. Austin White drove in 7 runs, but they're a team that does it in a complete fashion. It's going to be 1 through 9. They're going to give you competitive at bats, and that's just kind of the way that they've always been under Gary Gilmore. So it's not a team that necessarily relies on a single bopper in the middle of the lineup, but they're going to challenge you up and down the lineup to force you to throw strikes and force you to make pitches, and that's where they can wear teams down.
Those 2 first matchups that I mentioned should be a very entertaining games. What are your thoughts on UC Santa Barbara?
UC Santa Barbara is a program that has been just consistently good under Andrew Checketts. They've continued to get better and better. Last year, they obviously went to a regional. They're searching to get back to that super regional, back to the College World Series after that epic run with the home run, the grand slam from the freshmen, at Louisville. And so, they're a team that I think is going to contend in the top of the Big West once again. And you're looking for them to find some replacements. They obviously had some really good pieces at the front of the rotation last year, and Michael McGreevy and Rodney Boone. Who's going to step up and take those roles? Mike Gutierrez had a pretty good week last week. Corey Lewis is a guy that pitched well for them last season, but didn't pitch really great the first opening weekend. So they're a team that I think is going to rely a little bit more on their hitting early in the season, and then they'll try to build from there. They have a new/old offensive coach coming back to them after Matt Fontino left to go to USC. Donnie Fergus came back after being in the minors for a couple of years. So I think that they just are going to be able to continue to build on the hitting side. They just got to find a couple pitchers.
Do they have any MLB prospects on that team or no?
Yeah, definitely. They always have some prospects, and it starts with Jordan Sprinkle. The shortstop was just absolutely dynamic last year. Didn't really play as a freshman and just took a huge jump forward in his game. He was incredible to watch. He's a five-tool guy, plays great shortstop, has great range, good hands. But then at the plate, he can spray it all over the field. He can load up and drive the ball as well. He's going to steal you some bags. He's the front runner there. Zach Rodriguez is a guy a little bit down the road, was a freshman last year, jumped right in and had a really strong season. But they've got some prospects up and down, but I think it starts with those two guys in the middle of the lineup.
So my next question is, what are your thoughts on the Grand Canyon against UC Irvine game?
Yeah, I think this is kind of a bounce back opportunity for both programs after struggling the opening weekend or losing series the opening weekend. Grand Canyon loses to Nevada, even though they've got a packed house, and it's great to see the atmosphere that they had there at Grand Canyon. But they bounced back and got a big win during the midweek against Arizona, getting a top 25 win in a big fashion. I think it was 19-3 in that game, but they got to prove it on the weekend. And same thing with Irvine. They bounced back during the midweek and got a win against San Diego State, but they lost their opening weekend at Louisiana. That's a tough place to play. And they had an opportunity to win that series and gave one away in the late innings. So I think both of these teams are trying to prove themselves now. We expect both to be in the upper echelon of their conferences, the UC Irvine with the Big West, and then Grand Canyon in the newly renovated WAC. But I think that both teams want to jump back and get a series win to open the season. You don't want to start with back-to-back series losses, especially, against some quality competition. You want to be able to kind of boost that RPI when you have an opportunity.
What is your most intriguing conference to watch out for?
I mean, there's a ton of them. I think there's going to be a lot of great battles out there. I wrote about the Big East. I think that's an interesting conference. UConn's kind of dominated that, but who's going to step forward and challenge them? In the NEC, Bryant has dominated during the regular season, but hasn't been able to get that automatic bid during the conference tournament. So that's always intriguing to see if they can get over the hump or someone else can get up there and battle them for the regular season. I cover the West Coast. So, the Big West, the WCC are always really interesting battles. I think that the Big West has gotten more into the middle tier of teams is getting closer to the top tier. So I think it should be a more interesting battle there. I think Long Beach State is back. I think UC Irvine should be really good this season. UC Santa Barbara just continues to reload. So those teams are at the top. And I was really impressed with what Cal State Fullerton did their opening weekend. So the Big West could be really good. The WCC got some really big series wins. Outside of the team that I predicted to win, Gonzaga, they struggled a little bit on the road, went 2-2 their opening weekend, a couple losses to Oregon State, which is nothing to be complaining about too much there because Oregon State's going to be really good, I think, as well. But Portland sweeping a 4-game series with Creighton. I just think there was a number of the WCC teams proved themselves a little bit more than we anticipated that opening weekend. So that league is always a very intriguing league. It's always kind of cutthroat. They always kind of cannibalize themselves. No one really can jump out to a really big lead. They always kind of bring each other back to the middle of the pack. So I think that league will be really interesting again.
So you mentioned CSU Fullerton. They have a game against Gonzaga. Do you think Gonzaga will have a chance to beat them or no?
Yeah, I think both teams are looking to, they lost their opening weekends or didn't get a weekend win, so they want to bounce back and get a good solid weekend series victory. And it's an intriguing matchup because Cal State Fullerton has struggled the last couple of years. They haven't been the premier power like they have been for so long. For 40-something years, they had not had a losing record, had been consistent, picking up 30, 40 wins almost every season. So what are they going to do this year with Jason Dietrich, the new head coach, taking over? We know that he's going to get his pitchers to pitch. Can they get some offense to go along with it? And I was impressed by their opening weekend. Even though they took the series loss, they pitched really, really well against Stanford for 2.5 games and just couldn't finish off that series and get that second win. Gonzaga, they've got some legit arms at the front of the rotation. Gabriel Hughes is a potential first, second round pick. And then William Kepner after him is a guy that just has nasty stuff. And if he can throw up for strikes consistently, I think both those guys are one of the most dynamic 1-2 duos, starting rotation duos on the West Coast. So I think it's really interesting to see who's going to bounce back in this. I think a couple of these series we're looking at are really bounce back series.
I see on the schedule Kansas State against CSU Bakersfield. What do you think about that one?
I mean, Bakersfield is a team that didn't get to play this during the midweek. They're trying to get in some games, trying to turn over their program a little bit with Jeremy Beard and continuing to try to build there. But they couldn't get into games this week because of freezing temperatures in Bakersfield. So hopefully it warms up a little bit there. Kansas State is a team that's got some frontline talent, and they're a team that has come west pretty consistently. So you love seeing those teams that come out west and get that experience early in the season. Obviously, it's going to be difficult when they get to Big 12 play and try to figure out what exactly they have there. But they're a team that lost a little bit of talent, but have some guys coming back, and it's going to be up to guys like I'm losing my train of thought here. My notes, I'm looking for them. But they're a team that's been pretty consistent in the bottom tier of the Big 12. Can they take a step forward and be a part of the upper echelon? Connor McCullough is a guy that gives them a great opportunity to be in the mix there. And they lost some big pieces with Jordan Wicks going, but Connor McCullough stepping into that frontline rotation spot. Can he take that big step forward and become, a true ace in the Big 12? If he can do that, then the team becomes that much deeper. And I think that the offense should help, carry them a little bit early. They lost some pieces there as well, but they got some guys back like Terrence Spurlin at first base. So they just got to be able to kind of put all the pieces together, and, going to Bakersfield is a great bonding opportunity and a chance for them to try to make some noise early and collect some wins.
My last question is, what do you think about the Horizon Conference and Pac-12 Conference?
I mean, the Pac-12 Conference is unique this season because UCLA is just not the same as they have been in the past. They usually are very deep and very old. This year, they've got so much young talent on the team. It's going to take them a little bit of time to get in the mix, but you've got some teams that can run away with it really quick before UCLA can get up there. So I think that the Pac-12, it's a little bit of a change in the guard because UCLA has been so consistent up there at the top of the tier. I think they're going to fall back a little bit. So who's going to step in and take the mantle? Obviously, Stanford, it went to the College World Series last year. They lost some big pieces, but they think that they can be really good. Brock Jones is a dynamic player at the top. A team that, Arizona is switching over to Chip Hale from Jay Johnson. Jay Johnson goes to LSU, but I think they have a lot of talent. They're going to continue to be good. Oregon State, Can Oregon replace? They lost a lot of pieces last year. How quickly can they replace those guys? Can they again be in the mix? Oregon State from that first weekend showed us that they're going to be a team to contend with. And a couple teams to watch. I think California could be really good this season. They got a lot of high-end talent, including Dylan Beavers, Josh White, two Team USA guys. Steven Zobak can get up to 97 miles an hour with his fastball, but do they have the pieces in between? Do they have the depth? If they lose an injury, are they going to be able to fill in for that? That's a question there. And Washington State's a team I think they'll hit a ton. They got a lot of fresh or junior college transfers actually coming in, and I think those guys are going to be really good in a couple of weeks and be able to carry the team. Will they have enough pitching though? So there's a lot of intriguing teams in the Pac-12. I think it's at least a 4-bid team, if not a 5 or 6 bid team this season.
There's so much information that you just gave the podcast. So we appreciate you for taking your time out of your day to come on, and I am definitely looking forward to watching once the season progresses, and we will definitely have you back on to talk about what's happening throughout the season. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.